You are listening to Commission 6-8.
It is Monday, October 20th in the greatest country on earth. I am your host, Randy Millett, and this is Commission 6-8. Today, we're talking about how President Trump is solidifying his place in history as the Peacemaker In Chief. We're going to look at the 1905 Peace Treaty of Portsmouth, and as always, we're going to see what the Bible has to say about it. So let's go!
Yeah, I was just given a note by the Secretary of State saying that we're very close to a deal in the Middle East, and they're going to need me pretty quickly.
All right, guys, I have amazing news to share with you today. Amazing news for the show. As of today, October 20th, we have surpassed 1,000 downloads. In the first 30 days of launching this podcast, we already have 1,000 downloads, and to celebrate, I'm going to do a giveaway. So for the first person that can text me, if you go to wherever you get your podcast, you see the button that says send us a text. First person that can text me, the answer to this question is going to receive a free copy of my book for such a time as this. The question is, what scripture reference did I get the name Commission 6-8? It comes from the Bible, and it's a certain scripture. If you could text me the scripture reference where I got the name Commission 6-8, make sure you include your name and mailing address, because if you don't include an address, I'm not going to be able to send you anything, and I can't text you back. So the first person to text me where I got the name Commission 6-8, what scripture reference, I am going to send you a free copy of my book for such a time as this, a signed copy if you include your name. And I'll even give you a hint. Here's the hint. You ready? Here I am, send me. So text me through the button, let me know, and the first person to send me that text, I'm going to give away a free signed copy of my book. And again, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for your support. We surpassed 1,000 downloads. And to help get the word out for the show, if you're enjoying it, send it to somebody you know. Post it on social media. Send it to someone you think might like it. Don't forget to follow me on X, Randy J. Millett, and make sure you subscribe to the show and turn on notifications so you get notified every time there's a new episode. Okay, so what I want to talk about today is President Trump's influence on the world stage. And in spite of not winning the Nobel Peace Prize, just recently we know it was awarded to Maria Corina Machado of Venezuela. She even dedicated the award to President Trump because she said that he was helpful in her efforts to bring democracy to Venezuela. Nevertheless, President Trump has been inserting himself into the conversation and brokering peace deals all over the world and is being hailed by leaders all over the world as the Peacemaker In Chief. Now, I have a list here that I'm going to read of peace deals that he has negotiated since taking office in the past 9 months. Azerbaijan and Armenia, they were at war and had tensions for the past 30 years. He brokered a peace deal between those two. Azerbaijan and Armenia, Cambodia and Thailand, India and Pakistan. We know India and Pakistan have always been rivals, and they were on the brink of a possible nuclear war. Egypt and Ethiopia, Serbia and Kosovo, Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. And then, of course, the most recent and most popular peace deal was Israel and Hamas, Israel and Gaza. He ended the 2-year war between Israel and Gaza and returned the hostages back home. And that peace deal is fragile, to say the least. In fact, we've actually seen military strikes since. However, President Trump assures us that the ceasefire is intact, and while he continues to work with both parties in the region, he is now going to be focusing on Russia and Ukraine. Now, of course, we know that the United States is a superpower, and being a superpower, the President of the United States, often called the leader of the free world, has the ability to project his influence all over the world at any given time. But we have never before seen this level of influence and this many peace deals and this ability to bring conflicts to an end in such a short period of time. So what makes this different? Why haven't we seen past presidents be able to bring this many conflicts to an end? Why haven't we seen past presidents been able to achieve peace without putting boots on the ground or deploying troops to the region? What about President Trump's foreign policy is so different from leaders of the past? To understand this, we first have to understand what is President Trump's motivation for bringing peace to certain regions. Because, of course, President Trump touts himself as an America First president. So, for instance, in the case of Azerbaijan and Armenia, what in the world does that have to do with America or America First? Most Americans probably can't even locate them on a map. So that conflict seemingly has no impact to America, but President Trump was dedicated to ending this 30-year conflict, which past presidents could care less about. So let's look at how this peace deal benefited the United States. Now, in the terms of the treaty, Trump instituted something called TRIP, which stands for the Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity. And TRIP is a strategic transit route through Armenia, connecting Azerbaijan with its exclave and potentially extending it to Turkey. The project was brokered by President Donald Trump and aims to formally end decades of conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, establish diplomatic relations, and foster regional cooperation. The agreement was signed by the Armenian Prime Minister and the Azerbaijani President at the White House, and TRIP is expected to unlock billions in regional trade. Now pay attention to this part. This will integrate Armenia into global supply chains and reshape geopolitics by enhancing connectivity between Turkey, Azerbaijan, and Central Asia with Western markets. And it is also seen as a crucial element of a comprehensive and substantial regional transport network. And more importantly, what this did was by connecting Azerbaijan and Armenia and Turkey to Western markets, it cut out the influence of China, Russia, and Iran. So by bringing peace, ending a 30-year conflict, saving countless lives, not only did he stabilize the region, but he was able to undermine our enemies, all while bringing in billions of dollars of trade to the United States. And that was just one of the conflicts that he was able to end. See, I think what President Trump realizes that other presidents haven't is that you're able to negotiate peace from a position of strength. So in order to be the peacemaker in chief, he first had to make America economically strong. So how did he do that? Well, he started with the tariffs. Remember when he started doing the tariffs and everybody said it was going to cause a depression and an economic collapse? Well, of course it didn't. It just moved America. It moved the United States into a position of power where he can now go and assert dominance onto the global stage and broker peace deals throughout the region, all while undermining our enemies, making them weaker and making America stronger. See, with the amount of money that's been coming in from the tariffs and the amount of investments that he's been able to secure for the United States, it has given us the position of power, and he has not had to rely on the military-industrial complex to create wealth in the United States. Past presidents have gone to war or sent troops on the ground and activated the military-industrial complex or the war machine as a money-making operation. President Trump doesn't have to do that. So now he can actually seek peace for the sake of seeking peace. Let's look at another example. When Israel and Iran were trading rockets, you had the United States get involved, and we saw the war hawks were salivating, ready to send boots on the ground and activate the industrial military complex. But what did President Trump do? He dropped the largest conventional bomb ever dropped in world history. In fact, he dropped 14 of them. That bomb was literally designed for that specific target. Now, if you're looking to make money from a war, you're looking for a 21-year occupation of Afghanistan, or you're looking for a 20-year Vietnam. You're not looking for a 37-hour flight from Missouri to Iran and back, because that ended it. That ended the conflict between Israel and Iran. It crippled Iran's uranium enrichment project, and it prevented Iran from continuing to support Hamas, which leads us to the most recent peace deal, the end of the war in Gaza. And this is the genius of President Trump, and this is the effectiveness of the foreign policy of the peacemaker in chief, but he didn't invent it. In fact, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, I'm going to show you in history where very, very, very similar tactics were used to bring peace to a region across the world while benefiting the United States and propelling us to the global stage. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
You are listening to Commission 6-8.
This episode is brought to you by Living Proof Church, a non-denominational, spirit-filled church in Araby, Louisiana. Services are held Sundays at 10 a.m. and live streamed on YouTube. Visit us at livingproof-church.com to plan your visit.
You are listening to Commission 6-8.
In 1905, Russia and Japan were at war. The war fought between the two empires was over rival imperial ambitions in Manchuria and the Korean Empire. Russia had pursued an expansionist policy in Siberia and the Far East since the reign of Ivan the Terrible. And at the end of the First Sino-Japanese War, the treaty in 1895 had ceded the Liaodong Peninsula and Port Arthur to Japan before the triple intervention in which Russia, Germany, and France forced Japan to relinquish its claim. Japan feared that Russia would impede its plans to establish a sphere of influence in mainland Asia, especially as Russia built the Trans-Siberian Railroad and began making inroads in Korea and acquired a lease of the Liaodong Peninsula and Port Arthur from China in 1898. Knowing that Russia was weak and fearing European influence in China, Japan began bolstering its navy and in 1904 attacked Russia at Port Arthur. However, after only a year of fighting, the war proved to be costly for both sides, and Japan began to search for a mediator in peace negotiations. Enter Theodore Roosevelt. Up until this point, President Roosevelt had declared neutrality in the war and had even publicly spoken in support of Japan. However, privately, he had concerns that if Japan won the war and expanded its influence in China, that it would jeopardize U.S.-Chinese relations and trade. U.S.-Chinese trade relations were newly established as a result of John Hay, Secretary of State, his open door policy, which was only established in 1900. Because previously, the United States had been locked out of trade with China by Europe. So President Roosevelt saw an opportunity to not only bring peace to the region, but reinforce trade relations with China and establish the United States as a world power on the world stage. Roosevelt's efforts paid off in the end. In 1905, the Treaty of Portsmouth helped to prevent a prolonged conflict between Russia and Japan and created a period of relative peace and stability in East Asia. It also demonstrated the United States' growing role in world affairs and its commitment to promoting peace and stability on the global stage. These efforts directly resulted in President Roosevelt receiving the Nobel Peace Prize in 1906. In Matthew chapter 5, Jesus gives us the Sermon on the Mount, also known as the Beatitudes. And in verse 9, it says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God." Now let me ask you, what else would God have his children do, if not to spread peace throughout the world? President Trump's philosophy was the same as President Roosevelt's philosophy at the turn of the century. A strong America can facilitate peace. A strong America can promote peace. Peace and stability in that region, and peace and stability which benefits America here at home, and in turn makes us more powerful to facilitate more peace. This is not imperialism. There are a lot of people that are falling on different sides of this argument, and of course you're going to see the liberal media not giving Trump credit where he deserves it, but the fact is, from a powerful position, we can distribute peace, and we can do this in our personal life too. The more we draw closer to God, the more we stay in the Word, the more we are connected to the Almighty from a position of authority, we can bring peace to those around us. We can walk into a room and change the atmosphere. That's what we're called to do. That's what the children of God are called to do. That's what the peacemakers are called to do. President Trump is a peacemaker. He's the peacemaker in chief. And God bless President Trump for it. God bless America. And thank you, as always, for listening. I pray blessings over you and your family. I pray God blesses you coming in and you going out. I pray peace, power, and prosperity. And remember, you live in the greatest country on earth, and it's up to you to keep it.
You are listening to Commission 6-8.